What is going on, everybody? Welcome. God, I should have had a drink before I started. Welcome to the Premier League prediction, guys. It's football is back, and we're ready to talk about football. So much going on. It's been not a busy transfer system this summer. I would say it's surprising because there's not actually been not a lot of business done. But nonetheless, it's probably going to be a flurry of transfers over the next few weeks, which doesn't suit any of us at all. But it's good to see Ian back for West Ham. Ian, how have you been? It's great to see you back again, bro.
Very good. Yeah, extremely busy, but as I say, the planets have aligned tonight, so good to be back. Good to see you guys.
And let's welcome back KRANKY. KRANKY, of course, his own channel now is showing live. Have you got the live stream on your channel working now?
I'm checking it out now.
Yeah,
yes, it's up.
It's up. Okay, excellent, brilliant. How have you been, KRANKY? How's things?
Well, I'm looking at Ian should be smiling because West Ham is busy in the transfer window, probably as busy as they've ever been, given the quality that they're pursuing. So it's a good thing for West Ham.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there. It's the quality we're pursuing, and I think now the Moyes cork is out of the bottle.
You decided to spend money, wasn't giving Moyes any money.
What I don't think it's not like from what you sort of pick up on the tittle tattle and stuff like that. Steiden was sort of pinpointing guys when Moyes was here. He was sort of pinpointing guys. This is someone we should go for, that sort of stuff. But right. Moyes being Moyes was like, don't fit my style, don't like them. And with Moyes, if he didn't like someone, he didn't play them. So it was pointless bringing him in. You get the feeling that Lopetegui, if that's the correct pronunciation, and Steiden are working as a team, whereas you felt Moyes and Steiden were a bit like that. And I think proof of the pudding. Steiden's been allowed to do what he does. And by the sounds of it, Tadebo's in. I think contract due to be signed tonight, by all accounts. So he's been in. Physicals have been done today. They're filming all the intro stuff. I mean, it's always a question, isn't it? Don't believe it until you actually see them wearing the uniform. But by the sounds of it, that's a done deal, which is fantastic.
For top four.
Considering we've essentially nicked him from under the noses of Juventus and Manchester United, that's quite a coup for us.
It is
excellent. And so Bertram, your channel's big shout out to your channel, guys on 101. If you're not subscribed to KRANKY Live, please subscribe to KRANKY's channel and support him. And guys, look, let's get right into it. Today we're going to talk about, essentially, we're going to have a look at some of the teams. We're going to make our predictions of who we think is going to get relegated, and then most importantly, we're going to talk about top four. And then we'll have a go at sleepers as well. We'll have a go at the guys who were knocking at the door, the dark horses, and we'll talk about them. But overall, guys, I think the first thing we're going to talk about is the relegation teams. Now, it's funny enough because for me, I think, and I've never normally bought into all of this, but I think this is going to be the first season which is going to follow back to back of all the relegated teams, all the promoted teams actually going down again. When I look at it, who's on the bubble? Probably Wolves and Nottingham Forest, maybe Bournemouth. Wolves and Bournemouth because they've just got rid of, you get rid of a Neto of your Wolves. That's your creativity gone. Like you got rid of Jimenez, the goals started drying up, but the people that were providing the goals in terms of Neto, that's gone too. So that's a recipe for disaster, and I can see nothing they're doing in the market to fix that. So I think that they're going to be on the bubble. And then Bournemouth, who quite frankly, without Solanke, was relegation fodder. Crazy move. But hey, if they reinvest, they reinvest. But clubs like that don't normally do it. So me personally, guys, I'm going to go for Leicester City, Southampton, and Ipswich as the relegation teams. Yes, I know it's boring, but that's basically what happened last season. And it just tells you how competitive the Premier League is right now and how hard it is for these championship teams. Ian, what's your thoughts on this? Who would you go and why?
I mean, to be honest, it's hard to disagree because I think the gulf we have seen is now getting bigger. between those clubs that are already in the Premier League and those that are coming up. And those that are coming up either have to do what Forest did a couple of years ago and spend big and take the gamble, or they try and make do with what they've got and just add a couple of elements. But we saw last year that wasn't good enough. You had 3 good teams came up last year. Well, especially, Burnley, and considering what they did in the Championship, and they just crashed and burned, didn't they? I can't see anything different happening, but I think you're right. The Solanke move today, they got a lot of money for him. And like you're saying, it depends what they're prepared to reinvest. They got 65, I think, or 55 plus 10 add-ons or something from what I heard. So that's a lot of money if they can bring in a striker, but it's very late. It's very, very late now. Solanke can integrate into Spurs. That's fine because they've got the quality of players around him that can provide him the service. Bringing in a new striker now for Bournemouth is cutting it fine. And I can't see. I think we all play FPL probably, and you look at their list of strikers, they really haven't got anybody.
They haven't, but as you know, I've got contacts. Well, of course, I've got contacts at London Coney, and we won't go any further than that because you know who some of my contacts are. But I got a call today to say that Bournemouth inquired about Eddie Nketiah today.
Yeah, well, that would make sense.
Yeah, there's no official bid. It was just an inquiry.
And to be honest, Danny Ings is available.
Yeah.
There are strikers out there, but not necessarily of the quality that they've just sold. That's the thing. And
Nketiah, Danny Ings hasn't been good for a little while now.
Oh, I know. We'd happily. I think if Bournemouth came in and offered us 5, we'd take it.
Yeah, they said that about Kevin Phillips for about 20 years, didn't they? That he was.
Yeah, but here's a question though for Arsenal and Nketiah: is the deal with Marseille done? The loan with obligation to buy, is it done, or is it because if Bournemouth comes with the money, why wouldn't you send him to Bournemouth, and why wouldn't he go to Bournemouth?
So the personal terms are already agreed with Marseille, and Ed is happy to do that, which is the reason why I think the phone call for today, and don't quote me on this, but I believe it was what's the chances of his availability and how far is the deal with Marseille gone? And as we know, they're pretty much finalizing today. It broke late last night that they've come up to a compromise, which is a 30 million deal. It will be like a David Raya deal because of the lack of funds that the Marseille have. They can only count it towards next year's financial year. So they want to pay.
Has the contract been signed?
No, it hasn't. No.
If it hasn't been signed, there's no deal.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Look at William going to Chelsea when he's supposed to go to Tottenham.
Case in point with Todibo, he was off to Juventus, wasn't he?
Yes.
They've been haggling over that one for ages.
Bournemouth come with cash. I don't know how Tottenham are paying them. They may not be paying them full cash, 60 million, but you got to go that route.
Interesting name to throw out there for Bournemouth, though, bearing in mind the business that West Ham were trying to do a couple of weeks ago, is Duran at Villa. Villa were asking 40 million, I believe, and West Ham just weren't quite that. We were offering 32 plus a player, 35 in that sort of region. We weren't going up to their 40s. But if Bournemouth have got 55 plus 10 add-ons for Solanke, Duran, with a guarantee of first-team football, may well be tempted to go to somewhere like that. Maybe that's something they've got in mind.
Yeah, it definitely is. Dortmund is selling and doesn't have a replacement in mind, and decided he has a buyout clause, didn't he? So maybe that's the rationale. Actually, that's the why.
So the only thing, by the way, welcome, Andy. You're 10 minutes late. You're not normally ever late, so it must have been an emergency. But we welcome you and thanks for joining us. And all we're talking about at the moment, as you can see on the screen, Andy, is I'm getting your 2 cents on relegation. I think Ian shares most of what I'm saying. I think that the 3 teams that were promoted are going down. But I also named 3 teams on the bubble, and that was Bournemouth, because now there's no goals. Wolves, because there's no creator for the goals that Jimenez, who also went last summer, has gone. And then Nottingham Forest. But I did want to ask you, Ian, about Nottingham Forest. What's the plan this year? Because the plan so far has been, let's throw all this mud on the wall and see what sticks. And Andy might not agree with me, but Nuno Santo is a decent manager, and really, he's a good man, a popular guy, but I think without any plan, I think they're going to be stuck in the mud. Or what do you expect from them this season?
I don't know. I mean, they haven't gone mad in the transfer market this summer, which they have done the last couple of years, and that's meant that they've taken a while to get going. At the start of each of the last 2 seasons, they've not got into their stride because they've had new players acclimatizing. Don't necessarily see that this year. So I think they'll be in the bottom half of the table, but I think the stability that Nuno offers them, the continuity they've got there, plus the continuity of players, and they've also got proven Premier League players in there now. People like Wood, he's getting up there in age, but he can still score goals when required.
14 last season.
Yeah, I think they don't. I wouldn't be as worried as a Forest fan this year as I would have been last year. I think they've got stability. As I think you've highlighted, Wolves and Bournemouth are 2 teams that could surprise if any of the promoted teams are going to, manage to hang on by their fingernails and stay in the Premier League. It could well be between Bournemouth and Wolves that accompanies the other 2 back down.
So Kranky, let's go over to you. I know you like to always have your own spin on this. And by the way, the only team I didn't mention was Sean Dyche. And that's because, in my opinion, and I don't know whether you guys share this as well, they really had something to galvanize and fight for last season. Very rarely do teams have that in the bottom or the mid side of the table. But have the deduction, that was the chip on the shoulder, the kick in the backside that they need to get the extra 10% out of those guys. Every single game they fought tooth and nail. But their fate for me is linked to Sean Dyche. Can he do that again? So if he can't, then they're going to be on the bubble as well. What's your thoughts, Kranky?
Yeah, they sold one of their better midfielders, right?
Yeah.
Onana to Villa. I didn't really see that one coming. So, and they've brought in about 4 players, and they needed to balance the books, actually, and they've done a good job of doing that. But in doing so, they lost one of their better midfield generals. So it's going to be tough for them, right? They haven't brought in a lot of talent to supplement what they have. But without the point deduction last season, they would have been comfortable in terms of not being relegated. So you have to look at it in different ways. I do think you've mentioned Nottingham Forest also. They have a lot of people went out, a lot of people coming in, a lot of people come back from loans. And the question for them is, are they now stabilized? And will they be able to compete really, really well? But I would agree with the concept and the idea that the 3 teams that came up will find it difficult to stay up because they have made a ton of good purchases. The championship is different from the EPL. And every week you're back. If you don't have a very strong squad and competition of places, it becomes very, very difficult to compete, especially for the teams who are well situated. Nottingham Forest, whatnot, is up 2 years. Everything has been here for a while.
Yep.
So those teams at the bottom, Crystal Palace has moved up the ladder quite a bit. The question is, if they sell Gui, they already sell the kid to Bayern Munich, and as they may not stay, they may be challenged actually. So it's going to be an interesting season to see between 13 and 20 how that works out. But I agree with the view that the 3 that's coming up going to be finding it difficult to stay up.
Before I go to Andy, I'm not sure whether you were aware of the news that broke today. Your favorite player, Will Zaha, has made an agreement today with Palace, and he should be flying into London tomorrow.
Last I heard, about half an hour ago, is that is off.
Oh wow!
But
what happened?
But again, I might be wrong, but that was from a Palace source that that's quite close to it. Is that apparently that is off?
Oh, that means that Eze's gone then.
Considering he left them on a free, I think what they were being asked to pay for a 31-year-old, I think he wanted to come back, and it still might happen. But I think the fee that was being asked for was inappropriate for a 31-year-old who only left there on a free transfer a couple of years ago. So as far as I'm aware, it's off. But
okay, let's go to Andy.
Don't take that as gospel, but that's the latest that I'd heard.
That's interesting. So Andy's got the biggest smile on his face because his team actually signed somebody today. What's your thoughts on the relegation, Andy, on the relegation side? And Andy, my question to you is different from the other guys. And I say it's different because last year when we did the podcast, I made you a promise at Christmas, didn't I? I said to you that Luton Town will survive. And look, even though they didn't, Andy, I think you'd agree with me. How close were they? They probably played the best football out of the other teams and just did not get any of the results going their way. It just goes to show a whisker of a decision here or there. And I'm talking about against the top teams too. Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, they did really, really well. But it's a real shame that they were relegated. But they surely have proven that relegated teams can compete, Andy.
Was there a question in there somewhere?
Yeah, the question is who do you think's going to be relegated and who do you think's going to be on the bubble?
Yeah.
And brought down in real form already. Go ahead.
You can't wait to talk about Spurs. That's why.
Oh, mate, we haven't signed anyone yet. He's not on the ink's not dry yet. But yeah.
He must be. Is he
relegation
on the train up from the south coast though?
Yeah. Relegation. I kind of agree with the guys. I think the three teams that come up, they're going to find it very, very difficult to stay in this Premier League because the teams that they're coming to join are now Premier League hardened, and I think the gulf is so wide now between the Premier League and the Champions League. Championship. That I think they're going to struggle to compete financially. They haven't brought in huge amounts of players to compete. Leicester have got a new manager because Enzo's gone to Chelsea. I genuinely think the three of them are going to be struggling. I tend to agree that Bournemouth without Solanke, but I imagine Bournemouth will go for Nketiah maybe. Do you think is that a chance?
They called them today to inquire. We don't know what else is happening though.
I mean, whether Nketiah wants to go there, I don't know. But to be the main man, then maybe that would be perfect for his career. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. But I mean, that would be an interesting one. I mean, Iraola's probably got some contacts out and about abroad and stuff as well. So we'll see what Bournemouth do. But yeah, I think the three teams that are coming up are going to find it really, really hard. They might have a reasonable start or they might sort of have a little run. But as Luton found last year, no matter how well you do, I mean, Luton pushed Liverpool to the last minute, narrow defeat to Spurs, City, Arsenal. I mean, that they gave it a real shot against a lot of good sides and still got relegated. And so, the problem they had was they weren't beating the teams around them, and that was the problem Luton had last season. But anyway, I mean, yeah, I think that the three coming up will be my three tips to go back down again. And I don't want to say that, but it's just almost like a reality now.
Yeah, we've got some of the guys. Cam is saying Arteta's preseason giving them a taste of what's to come with the Barcelona DNA. Emerson says his teams are Ipswich, Southampton, Nottingham Forest. It's a good shout. That's what we want to hear. Rich Poe in the house. Shout out to you, bro. Mugshot streamings. He says, easy. What's going on with you, bro? Cam is also saying Leicester City. No, yes, that's correct. They're not having a points deduction because the English Football League hasn't got the jurisdiction of the Premier League. So if that went to court, Premier League would lose. That's why they didn't do it. I think their men in suits told them straight away that this isn't something that would stick and it would be revoked. So they didn't go ahead with the charges. Cam says his teams also include Liverpool to be relegated. Everton fan. Drew Cross, good to see you, bro. Hope everything is good. And so, yeah, guys, look, I don't really think there's anything else to add to the relegation except for what I said about Luton Town. Someone could surprise. Someone could actually play really good football, be competitive, and start to get the results to swing their way. Is Leicester City that team? I'm not sure, but they certainly have their heritage, and and we know that they won the title quite a few years ago now. But they definitely will have the fan base to help them get over the line. So that's something that I would keep my eye on there. So guys,
they're opening games against Spurs.
Yeah.
Spurs are away at Leicester, first game of the season on the Monday night.
So before we talk about the top four and who we think is going to win the league, let's discuss the dark horses here. I think because this for me, guys, is the most crucial. I think Tony's coming in. Tony, are you still in France with the Olympics?
Andy, you'll be jealous. I mean, I'm actually in Roland Garros right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you can see that.
Yes.
Yeah, I've just come out of the boxing, which was held in one of the courts. They've kept all the boxing finals at Roland Garros. Back here again tomorrow. How you doing, Ed?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to see you. Have they got over that? Have they got over that dreadful judge's decision for Lewis Richardson when he got beat? That was a shambles, mate. He won that final round fair and square, mate. That was a shocking decision.
Yeah, Lewis. Today, so I was at the celebration for that particular weight group. The final was, so the guy that beat Lewis won the gold medal today.
Scandal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How you doing, guys?
Yeah, we're doing good, man. We're doing good. It's good to hear from you, Tony, man.
Well, I just thought I'd take a quick opportunity. I get it to come on and voice. Yeah.
You didn't pay your phone bill.
No, so the signal out there is a little bit of a struggle.
French Wi-Fi is not up to cop, obviously.
you just came on a show. You came on the show off at Roland Garros, didn't you, Tony?
Yeah, I think he's using 4G. He's using 4G, so that's why it's spotting out a little bit.
I think it was only 3G, innit?
Sound like 2G to me.
Yeah.
So guys, so let's talk about the dark horses. Let's talk about the teams that are essentially trying to get into that top four position before we make our predictions. And I think this is probably the most key battle and the most exciting part of the season. Why? Because the City's won it 6 out of the last 7 years. Arsenal have been runners-up, and Liverpool is still a good team. I've watched them in pre-season, and I don't think they're gonna miss much. They're gonna miss some. I think Klopp was so important to what they did, but I believe that last year they literally played without a manager because I think Klopp checked out. I think he checked out long before what was going on. And believe me, guys, those guys were hanging on with victories. And quite frankly, it was a surprise to me that they were still in a title challenge near the end of the season because they were scraping over so many games. Every game, Liverpool were almost going down a goal at half time. So I think they're going to still be in it. So it's really, really going to be about that crux of teams that I want to discuss here today. And this is Man United, Chelsea, Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, and Tottenham. And so let's start with Ian. I don't really have that much questions for you. It's really just to get your opinion on it. But let's work with the way that Newcastle showed the trend, right? They showed a trend that if you get in, it's not a billionaires boys club. You can easily move out as quickly as you go in. And I think and I predict that's going to happen this year with Aston Villa. So what's your thoughts with who do you see the dark horses?
Yeah, I think it's certainly from our experience at West Ham over the last 2 or 3 years, obviously European champions a couple of years ago, which we're all aware of. But it does take it out of you.
The plate competition.
Sorry, European champions. Just, yeah. But I think it does become very clear if you don't have the strength in depth of the big boys, and by the big boys I mean your Liverpools, your Arsenals, your Manchester Cities. You can potentially struggle week in, week out playing 2 fixtures, and therefore I think those teams like ourselves who aren't in Europe this year have a great opportunity to do what Villa did last year, because they didn't necessarily have a lot of European issues. I think out fairly early, weren't they, from memory? But it's one of those things. I think if Europe is great for the money and for the income and everything like that, but it really does put a strain if you haven't got a strong squad. And I think that's where some of the dark horse challengers can come through, because they're able to rest more. They're able to literally put everything into the league and not worry about European competition. I think we could have some shocks. I mean, I'm hoping obviously that the new boys that are coming in to West Ham are going to gel quickly. I can't see us worrying the top four, but I could see us certainly competing for the lower European spots, if you want to call them that. I think Villa have got, as long as they stay injury free, I think they'll be okay. But I don't know they necessarily have the depth. If they have a couple of key injuries to people like Watkins or something like that, they could then struggle.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And again, guys, you get rid of Douglas Luiz, and that wasn't by design. It was something they were forced into doing. And look, Onana is a good player. I don't think he's at Luiz quality. I think he's a different kind of player. I would have had him replacing Thomas Partey at Arsenal. But I think he's going to give them the steal that Spurs were hoping that they had with Basuma. I think that's what Onana's, I love him as a player. I think, especially when he's played us, I think he's shown his mettle against quality teams. He's going to be a real good addition to Everton, but he's not the attacking-minded, creative player that Douglas Luiz is, who can give them that sort of two-way hammer as a defender and attacker. But I do want to ask you, though, Ian, in the past, West Ham, and we can go through the names, including Paqueta and all the quality players that they've had, they've made some really, really good signings over the years and never quite delivered on promise. And so on this occasion, it feels different, doesn't it, Ian? It feels like it's...
I think it does. I mean, I'm not particularly au fait with Lopetegui's style of football. But, you know, I mean, fair enough. David Moyes, we won a European competition. That was fantastic. We qualified for Europe 3 years on the bounce. That was absolutely fantastic. But the football at times was absolutely shocking. And as a lifelong West Ham fan who's, you know, always relied on the academy coming through and young, exciting players coming through. And yeah, we didn't win anything, but it was if you went down to Upton Park, you were going to have a bloody good game of football. That had been sort of the lifeblood had been drawn out of the club over the last 3 or 4 years. We were grinding out results. And certainly at the end, it wasn't pretty. We were getting thumped at the end of last year. And I think that there's a new feeling about, I mean, there are rumblings obviously amongst the fans in terms of the increases in season tickets and the way that's gone. There's sort of rumblings of discontent, which there often are at West Ham. But I think on the pitch, there are certainly signs that with this new influx coming in, the guys that we've managed to retain, we're going to get a lot younger, we're going to get a lot quicker, and hopefully a lot more exciting.
You got a question down there as well, Ian.
Oh, what's he like? I've never met the guy. From what I hear, he's an extremely pleasant, affable guy. He doesn't suffer falls, which obviously was a Moyes trait. He doesn't suffer falls. I mean, obviously he himself left Wolves when they reneged on, well, in theory, reneged on their pledge to give him money to spend in the transfer market, and they didn't give him that. And he went, well, if you're not going to back me, I'm out of here. So he's obviously a man of principle. But to say, and a number of players apparently are coming to the club. The fact we haven't been able to offer these guys that are coming in, we can't offer them European football this year, but they're still coming. I think because Kilman is certainly coming because Lopetegui is here. So he obviously feels very strongly about his former manager. And from what I've heard, a number of the other players like what he's done in the past and like him as a manager, like his style of play, and that's why they're coming. Plus, Steiden obviously can talk the talk as well.
So, Kranky, let's go over to you. This is a very, very difficult conversation talking about these teams because you never know which one's going to spring. You never know what's going to happen. Man United with the worst, and I'll just run through them. They're on the screen. Man United with the worst finish that they've ever had in Premier League history. Chelsea, who is spending so much money. I sent you a message today at lunchtime, didn't I? 41 players they have. They have 10 more players than any other team in the league.
And they've signed another one. They've signed Neto today. And it's like, where are they going to play?
Newcastle, who are cash flow. In fact, Aston Villa and Newcastle are both hitting cash flow problems and really can't make the moves in the market that they want to make. And you just can't see anything happening with them. West Ham, Wichero's on the up. Tottenham as well. This is the first year that their manager's really going to buy his players rather than trying to make the team work with the players he's inherited. It's a real difficult spot to be in, Cranky. And the only team I didn't put in there was Palace and Fulham for various reasons.
Brighton.
Go ahead, Andy.
Brighton.
No, I don't think they've improved enough, and they certainly wasn't playing in the way that Palace. The thing is, Fulham were beating a lot of good teams last season, and towards the end of the season, Palace won 6 in a row, and they didn't just win games; they were blowing teams away. And I said on my channel every week, nobody wants to play Crystal Palace right now. They were embarrassing teams, and it wasn't that they were scoring 4 or 5 goals; they weren't letting any goals in. So. Yeah. That's a huge
defensively
warning.
Very, very solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are they going to have at the end of the transfer window?
Hopefully, it would be our guy Zaha comes back and fills that Michael Alacy role because they're going to miss him greatly if that happens, and I think they got a chance.
Yeah, but are they going to keep Gahey? Are they going to keep Anderson? Are they going to keep Eze?
I think not so sure about Eze because. Eze, out of the players you mentioned, he's the only one with a release clause. So if they proc that 60 million, there's not much that Palace can't do anything. It's then down to the player, right? And if the player has an opportunity to play in the Champions League, he's not going to turn that down, is he?
Well, we all know Eze wants to come to Tottenham. Tottenham want Eze, but
is that right?
Eze wants to come to Spurs.
He's an Arsenal man. He's our academy player. What do you mean he wants to come to Spurs? What's going on with you today, Andy?
Eze wants to come to Spurs. The problem is that Levy doesn't want to pay 60 million on the nose to Palace because Palace are demanding the full release clause up front. And Levy won't give them 60 million up front. It's not going to happen. So the only reason we've got in Solanke is because they've agreed to take it in instalments and only pay 30 million up front. So that's the only reason we've got Solanke. But Palace are saying that they want the whole 60 million up front. There's no way Levy's playing that. So unless they change their stance, I don't think Eze's going to leave.
Well, they're not going to change their stance. When we try to get Zaha from them way back when, that's what they wanted, right? 60 million up front. They don't want any drip payments.
And they've said the same to Newcastle for Gahey. Newcastle have offered 50 million for Gahey and they've knocked that back. So
I think they're after 65, aren't they, for Gahey?
Yeah.
So there's a lot here to digest, right? A lot here to digest in these teams. If you look at net spend so far, Villa spent a lot of money. They did get a lot of money for Diaby and a few more players. Chelsea's net spend before Neto was only about 28 million, even though they brought in 7 or 8 people, right? So they may be spending, but you can get Maxson for 40-something, Hutchinson who hasn't proven anything in the Premier League for 20-something mil, then you're doing good business in terms of your sales.
I'm trying to work out how Chelsea are circumventing PSR. I don't understand how they're doing it.
Well, it's
insane.
On period, isn't it? So they probably fix their books by end of June. They can just spend wildly until the next period. And they're not done spending. As Apollo said, he contacted me today. They have 41 players in the books. They get good return for their players. Let's say Gallagher is all profit. It's probably going to be about 30, 40 mil. So they'll be net positive by the time they're done. Well, we'll see what happens with the Neto deal.
Cranky, I just want to quote on that. They have sold Goldin for 4 million. He went to Leicester. Amari Hutchinson went to Ipswich for 20 million. Lewis Hall went to Newcastle for 28 million. And Ian Marston went to Aston Villa for 40 million. So they have recouped 80 million. I just want
the next spend is 28 million out. So negative, given what they brought in. But that doesn't include the Neto deal, which is what, 55 million?
Yes,
So
that's
they're spending a
correct.
lot of money. The question is, will they have a cohesive team versus what I call my colloquial term pickup team, which is a bunch of players. How do I coalesce them and make them function as a team? That's their problem. And they creating the same thing year after year by doing the same thing year after year. So think about it. They have Mudryk, Sterling, Madeki, Neto, Palmer. They have 5 wingers. Now Palmer can play the 10. They have 5 quality wingers they paid a lot of money for. Each of them probably costs 40, 50 mil and above. So we're going to play them. Only 2 can play.
Mudryk was 90 mil.
I know, but I'm saying 50 million above, right? So Mudryk was 90,
Yeah.
50 something. So where are you going to play all of them? I think Madeki was a little bit less than 50, but we're going to play 5 players who want to play. That's just in the forward line. They brought in Dewsbury Hall to play midfield. They have 200 million player in the midfield. And they may get rid of Gallagher and him replace Gallagher, but they don't seem like they're coordinated about what they're doing. But they're not losing a ton of money, right? They did initially when they had this huge spending, but they have sales and they're getting quality return. Unlike Arsenal, who don't get back any money when we sell anyone, frankly, apart from Smith Rowe and a few more players. We don't really get money back in to come to supplement our budget.
Chelsea have also bought that Omarodion from Atletico as well. That's gone in the Gallagher deal. They've paid almost as much for him as they're getting for Gallagher.
I don't know if Gallagher is going though. It doesn't seem like Gallagher wants to go to Spain. So that's going to be another story.
Well, there's another one that wants to come to Spurs, but I mean, it's again, Levy don't want to spend the
Everybody
money.
wants to go to Spurs, guys.
What's that about?
Well, why wouldn't you want to come to Spurs? Best team in the world.
You know why? You know why, Andy? Because I like trophies as a player, and I will not see a trophy in this century.
They all want to play for Postecoglou.
No, it's they play fun football. He plays fun football, right? So that's a good segue actually about Postecoglou and the football he plays, even though he doesn't know how to be flexible sometimes. Let's go really quickly. Man U, they haven't spent that much, right? They bought the kid from France for 60-something mil. They brought Zerky. They haven't, and they've got rid of some people, but have they improved significantly? I know they had a ton of injuries last year. I'm not sure they have.
Well, say the guy they've signed is going to be out until Christmas, isn't he now? By all
he broke in the US.
Euro.
He's out for 4 months or 3 months, whatever. A few months actually, but he's going to be out. It's going to take time for him to recover. And they lost. Maybe it's a good loss. What's his name from France?
Varane.
There was Varane, but maybe that's a good loss.
And also Hoyland's out for 6 weeks as well, isn't he?
Hoyland got hurt against us, yes. So they are going back to the whole injury prone again. Do they have a center forward? Zerky's a good player, but he didn't get that much game in the Euros. So he can't be that great against a team which don't have good forward line. So it's going to be interesting where Man U ends up, right? I think Chelsea could be dangerous. They could also be just okay. Depends on how quickly they blend.
Exactly. With Chelsea, it's that classic comment, isn't it? Great on paper, shit on grass.
Well, yeah.
You look at their squad on paper, it's incredible, but they're not a cohesive unit because they don't know 1 week to the next who's going to be in the lineup.
Yeah, Newcastle is interesting actually because they seem to be redoing their defense, especially the center half. But they replenished that about 2 years ago by buying a bunch of players in that position. So I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. They're going after Goey. They had a kid from Bournemouth that went there on a free. They had another player. They have a couple of players went there on a free. So I'm not sure what they're doing in that space. I'm impressed by West Ham, by the way. And they are spending a lot of money. A lot of money. Where do you get all that money from, Ian? You're not like you generate that much.
I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue because we haven't really sold anyone. I mean, unless that's still remnants of the Declan Rice money from last year, which is possible. But we've not really.
5 installments, though.
I mean, Ben Rama's gone, Fornalza's gone, but they didn't go for big money.
No,
so
Ben Rama was
I don't
14. Know. Downs was 17. Yeah, that's like so. The net spend for West Ham is 82 million. Net out of pocket spend, and they're still going to buy the kid from France.
Well, Tadebo's he's on loan with obligation to buy next summer. Okay. So yeah.
So they'll be okay. They'll be okay. And Villa has spent but Villa's made some money.
Age is the problem. Age is the problem up top because obviously we've brought Fulkrug in, but he's 31. I think Ings is 32 and Antonio's 34. I think so. We have a problem with age up top, but Füllkrug is proven goal scorer in Europe. It's whether he can, because we've seen players come in from Germany who haven't necessarily, they've come in highly touted and haven't particularly pulled up trees when they've got in the Premier League. So hopefully that will change. But he looks like a bit of a bully in the box, which is sort of what Antonio does. But
I think
hopefully he'll be able to
get than Antonio. Actually, he's more clinical. He's more clinical, but I'm not sure he's more mobile.
No,
Füllkrug's a top class striker. I think he'll do well. I think he'll do well for West Ham. But what it does give West Ham is more strength in depth up top. In the past, West Ham have struggled when Antonio's been injured. They've struggled to replace him up top. But this season, with Füllkrug, with Antonio, Ings can come in here and there. They'll have a centre forward of decent note in every match you would expect.
Well, hopefully
which one it is.
We'll have a manager now that can use centre forwards. I mean, we had Haller, we had Skamaka, but Moyes didn't use them the right way. I mean, both have gone on to do great stuff since they've left us. So they've got the talent. They had the talent, but they just weren't used in the right way by Moyes while we had them. And again, it's that classic example of players being brought in that the manager didn't particularly want, didn't particularly play them. Whereas now, hopefully, we've got that with the general manager and the manager working together, or the general manager and the coach working together. Hopefully, the right players are coming in for the system now.
Well, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the business that West Ham have done, because if you look at their strength going forward now, you've got Antonio, Füllkrug, Ings, you've got Bowen, they've got Kudus, they've got Paqueta. I mean, they've got some seriously good talent in that side.
And obviously Somerville's in as well.
And Somerville too.
Rodriguez from Real Betis is in, right? Free transfer.
Yeah, and they've still got Alvarez. Alvarez.
Guido's come in as a free transfer. He'll be playing alongside Alvarez, I would have thought. We've got, essentially, we're going to have Ward-Prowse on the bench. We're going to have Souček on the bench. If the final deal that I think we're in for is Wan-Bissaka, which we're still talking to Man United about, and if we can get that one over the line, then defensively we've really solidified a lot.
Well, you've strengthened because you've got Kilman, and also I hear today you're getting Todibo as well from Nice.
Yep, that should be signed tonight. That's near as damn it confirmed. So we've got
because
Kilman,
everyone was in for Todibo in the last year. I mean, United wanted him, Spurs wanted him. I think Arsenal were linked with him at one point.
Juventus were after him.
So I mean,
centre half. We have had 6, and we want more. That's
we essentially what we will have if we get Wan-Bissaka in, which I say it's been a while. They've been talking a while, but it seems to still be on. If they get him in, I think we've essentially got 2-player depth at every position, which I don't remember a time when we've had 2-player depth at every position.
But Ian, your entire back four has changed, isn't it? Apart from maybe Creswell.
Well, no, we still have. We'll have Emerson and although.
No, what I mean in terms of starters, because
I suppose amongst Emerson will still be a starter, but the other 3 will be new, so it may take a while to gel, or they may be sort of filtered in because it looks like Izuma's going to go, which is fair enough because I think his knees are totally shot. I mean, he's a great player when he can move, but he was struggling a lot. But I think you've got the existing guys that are still there. Mavropanos is still there. Agerd is still there, so they can offer that longevity and play in the short term, while Kilman and Todibo are getting acclimatized and filtering them into the team. And of course, Soufal at right back is solid. You'd think Wan-Bissaka is probably an upgrade there, but Soufal can certainly fulfill a role. So it's not like it's not like they need to be brand new from day one.
Yeah, Kilman at 47 minutes starting from day one. I can't see me on the bench.
Yeah, he's been there for the whole of pre-season.
Okay.
So that's where he's got the advantage over the guys that are just coming in this last week. Essentially, Kilman and Guilherme were the 2 early ones. Guilherme's very young, so he'll definitely be brought along slowly. But Kilman of the signings, he's pretty much the one that's guaranteed to start from week 1. I would have thought.
So are you optimistic for top 4 then? Push.
I'd love to see it. I think a solid push for the other European slots. I think top 4 could still be pushing it.
So can I just before we transition, just Tottenham, because I left Andy a little shove. Tottenham. Look, is Solanke the answer? That's the question. One great
They don't have a problem scoring, do they? They didn't have a problem scoring last year.
It's
conceding's the problem, and they haven't really improved, have they? Or have they brought anyone?
They want the centre forward, right? They don't trust Richarlison.
True.
Who can play out wide, by the way. So they want a centre forward. So they're going to improve their goal scoring. The question for Tottenham is, do you have enough in the middle and in the defense? Now, right and left back are good, but do they have any cover? They get injured, they have no good cover, right? And in the middle of the park, we know how what's his name is from Argentina.
Romero
would be great today and a headache tomorrow.
Well, that's not really true. I think Romero's the best centre half in the world.
Wow!
And he's the World Cup winner, and he's a Copa America winner. Messi thinks he's the best in the world. I mean, it's only because he had one red card last season, and that was against Chelsea, and it wasn't a red card. It wasn't a red card. He won the ball. He won the ball.
Spurs world? Which world?
Sorry?
He's better than Saliba? He's better than Van Dijk? He's better than Saliba? Really?
Yes.
That's blinkered. It's got to be blinkered.
That's blasphemy.
It's not. You've got the best coaches and people players in the world telling you that he is the best defender in the world.
They're teammates.
And he's won the World Cup and he's won the Copa America in the last 18 months.
So Andy, yes or no? You think that Romero is better than John Stones, Ruben Diaz, David Alba, William Saliba, and Van Dijk, which I'm just naming the top 5 centre backs in the world, and you think he's better than all of those players?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm deadly serious.
No,
he's not playing. He's not playing. He's not playing in the best club side in the world like some of those players are. But he is. That's why Real Madrid won him. It's just that Levy said 150 million, and Real Madrid took a walk. But that's why Real Madrid want Romero. And they'll get him, I imagine, in the next year or two when his price comes down a little bit as he gets nearer his end of his contract. Unless we start winning things, then he might choose to stay.
Yeah, I know it's Friday night in England, and I know how we are in England Friday night, but I missed it.
Andy's just broken the internet. He's just broken the internet. Wow.
Mate, I'm only saying what Leo Messi said.
Yeah, but I watched the guy. I watched him play, and I don't think he's better than. I think he's good. I think he's definitely a top 10 in the Premier League.
Okay. Who's the current world champions in the world internationally?
Which team leaks more goals than anyone in the EPL?
Who are the current world champions? Argentina. Who's their best centre half? Yeah, Romero.
Players are not teams.
Who's Tottenham centre half?
Individual players.
Who are the Copa America champions? Argentina. Who's their centre half? Romero. This is current.
Who is Tottenham centre half?
Romero.
Who gave up a ton of goals last year?
Not Romero didn't.
Tottenham, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say Argentina is great, but for Tottenham, you can't have it both.
No. I said it wasn't Romero that gave up a ton of goals last season.
But he's the one that stopped them for Argentina.
A lot of the goals were given up when Romero wasn't in the side.
Okay.
I don't see the logic, but
have they? But the
first 10 games of last season, we had the best defence in the league. It was when Romero got sent off against Chelsea that everything collapsed, and we conceded more goals in 4 games than we had in the previous 10.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the quarter of the league time, and it's done over the whole season. Yeah.
I'm not arguing that point. We weren't good enough. I'm not arguing. I'm not that. I'm not someone that's saying Spurs are the greatest. They're not. But I'm saying that Romero is top class, and I don't think he gets the credit from you guys that he deserves. He's a world champion. He's a world champion for a reason.
Yeah, I think Andy's heard me. Yeah, Andy's heard me say that I think he's a good player, but I don't think he partners well. I don't think he communicates well. I think he's a quality player, but I also think he's rash. I think he makes rash decisions. I used to think that about Gabriel. But Gabriel over the last few seasons for Arsenal, he's really calmed down a lot in defence. He used to be wild in terms.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about Romero. He was rash and he was wild. If you watch Romero over the last 6 months, he realised he had to change. He realised he had to change, and he was much, much better when he came back because he realised he couldn't carry on.
Do they need someone solid next to him to make him cohesive? Like Apollo was just saying, Gabriel has calmed down. Is that because he had Saliba next to him to allow him to calm down because he didn't feel he had to do everything on his own because he's got Saliba next to him? Is it Romero feels he has to do everything on his own because he doesn't have support at the back?
When him and Van der Ven play together, they are very strong. But we need the problem with Spurs, as Apollo alluded to, and we're fine going forward generally. I do think we've got 1 or 2 issues creatively when we play against a low block, which we do a lot. But which is why I genuinely believe that we really need Eze, because he can unlock that low block. But our problem is not the back four. If we've got our full strength 11, we're a match for anyone, and I mean anyone in the league. The problem is we don't get our first choice 11 on the pitch often enough. Last season, we barely did it. You know, we did it for 10 games, and then the wheels came off. We lost 3 or 4 players, and that's it. The season collapsed. And we have to be stronger than that. We've got Dragosan now, and I think Dragosan's good. He looked good in the Euros for Romania. So I think he's a good signing. But we haven't yet got cover. I mean, Spencer's looked quite good in pre-season. They're talking about maybe giving him another chance because it looked like he was going out the door. But I know there's still talk that he might go somewhere, so we'll wait and see what happens.
So guys, we've covered basically this, and I wanted it to go this long because I think this is the most interesting conversation of this podcast today. I think the bottom is relegation is pretty easy. I think at the top of the table, pretty much there's not a lot of choice there. But I think that this is where the excitement's going to be in the season. So let me get one team out of you guys who's going to be in that top 4. I'll go first, and it might shock some of you lot. But I think the team that's going to finish 4th is Manchester United. And I think that what they've done with Ten Hag, they've definitely looked at Arsenal and Arteta. They've definitely said, look, we can see the wood through the trees. We can see the plan. We can see all the soft foundation being set. And if we give this guy more time, he'll deliver. And that's what they're hoping for, I think. And they're not the only team. I think a lot of teams are looking at what Arsenal did with Arteta and say, look, guys, if we give them the time to develop this team and build a foundation, then I think that we might be onto something. So I think that that's going to be something new in football rather than getting... there's still going to be second managers at a crazy rate. There's still some teams that are just not going to change their ethics. But I think, especially with Ten Hag, and believe me, I thought he was going to be sacked before Christmas, I think that it's Man United. And I think it's the young players. When I look at the Kobe Mainu and all those players coming through, they're young, they're good players. They move the ball well, they run well, they're skillful, they can score goals. The defense is going to be probably their weakness, but even that they're focusing on at the moment.
They need Martinez. They need Martinez to stay fit. If he doesn't stay fit, they're in trouble. If he managed to have an injury-free season, that will make a massive difference to Man United.
I agree. So who's yours, Andy? Let me go the other way around now. Let me go to Andy. Andy, who's going to be yours? It's probably going to be Tottenham, but give us your reasons why.
My view is that the team that's done the best business, I believe, is West Ham. I believe West Ham have solidified and done really good business. I've got a lot of time for Fulkrug, and I think he'll score goals in the Premier League. And they've made other decent signings. The centre-back pairing of Hillman and Todibo are strong acquisitions to West Ham. So I think they've done the best business. But out of those teams, I believe, looking at those teams there, I believe Tottenham will finish above those other 5 teams in the league. Now, whether that's enough to get us top 4 Anyone else surprises? I don't know. But yes, I do believe Tottenham will make the top 4 this season.
Okay, what about you, Cranky? Cranky, let's have your team and the reasons why.
I'm gonna say Chelsea, shockingly. We just seem to buy players for Joe, but I just think offensively they're going to be ridiculous. Neto, if he stays healthy, is explosive. You have Palmer going to play the 10, and Kungu going to play the 10. May play center forward, Sterling on the left, Caicedo and Fernandes backing them up. You have 6 players up top. All you got to do is maybe play 5 at the back, and have those 5 other players just roaming and creating havoc. I think it's hard. Look, they have to do something with the 41 players they have. They can't keep all 41 of them. But when they get a solid 25, which they will have, they'll have competition for places in every single position. If James comes back and is playing right back, they had Gusto from last year. So they're solid there. If he comes back and play the whole season, they're just going to show up their center half, which I don't think they have addressed because Silva left. But if they get that right, and they have a goalkeeper in now, which they brought in, they played Man City tough last year. They scored goal last year, 4 against Man City. I seen them being extremely competitive. They need a settled team, but the quality is there. The question, how do I harness that quality? And I look at the rest of these teams. Villa will be good. Will they be as good as last year? I think they're probably better than last year because I don't think they got enough out of Diaby. And even though David Luiz is good, they'll be better defensively. Tottenham will be very good. I still think they need competition for places at Tottenham. I don't think the squad is strong enough to be able to.
Transfer window's not shut yet, though.
I know, and it's going to be a long one for a lot of people. By the time they blend in, it's October.
Right? By the time they blend in, October.
No, they have a strong look. They bought Solanke, they have Richarlison. The center forward is set, but you think about their team in totality. Do they have competition for places almost every single position? Like for example, think about Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. Almost every position, Arsenal maybe 2 positions, they don't have competition for places. Arsenal have 6 center backs. 4 of those can play right or left back, right? That's what Man City has. Tottenham need that. But Tottenham have a very strong team. And as Andy alluded to, which people seem to forget, before Basum and Sarr went to African Nations Cup, in the first 10 games of the season, they were playing the best football. And all of a sudden, they fell apart. Some injuries, some red card. People get moved someplace else. Basuma got a red card. Things change dramatically. So, but I think Chelsea just have people don't look at their squad. They have players.
Yeah, they got ridiculous
players. And if they blend, they're going to be dangerous.
And so for me, I would have gone with Chelsea, and the reason why I didn't was because they got rid of Pooch. Pooch had as the season was going on from the latter part of the season, he had the 4th most points in there, showing that it was working. And I don't know why the owners didn't say, and I'm going to you, Ian, on this one. I don't know why the owners the math was right in front of them. The proof was there. If they ever needed to see a system dynamic, it was right there. And so it's Biggs G says, what's the question? The question, we've done relegation teams and who we thought was going to be relegated. This is who do we think is going to get into the top 4 out of these teams? Because we pretty much know City, Arsenal, and Liverpool are a lock for the top 3. I don't think that's
I'm not as convinced about Liverpool this season as you are without Klopp.
Yeah. Oh, I am. I definitely am.
They look good against us in preseason.
They look good against us, man. They're going to show.
Their pressing is like Klopp first season.
Don't worry. Hey, Cranky, let them find out when the league starts.
Their pressing had us in trouble. I'm telling you. We couldn't move the ball against them. Pressing is ridiculous. They'll burn out mid-season, but their pressing is ridiculous.
You're going to get a shock and surprise when you see them. Let's go to Ian. Ian, who's going to be your surprise? Are you going to go with your boys, West Ham?
Well, just to quickly answer the other thing, are we talking about the top 4 in a minute? In which case, I'll say that.
So we're going to move to top 4.
I'll save it. To be honest, and it pains me to say it, I think out of those 6 teams, I think Tottenham will do best out of those 6 teams. They've added, obviously, Solanke today, as far as we're aware. I mean, Andy's convinced me they've got the best centre-back duo in the whole of the Premier League. So that's only going to improve. Again, they've now got consistency of manager. They all know what system they're playing. They've played it for a season or 2. They know what they're doing now. I think they're going to be stronger. Chelsea, on paper, like I said earlier on paper, they have by far the strongest squad out of all of those 6 teams. But You've got to keep the locker room happy. You've got a new manager coming in. You've got yet another new system coming in. Like you said, Apollo, the end of last year, they started playing well because finally they were working to Poch's system and it was starting to work. So they get rid of that manager. They bring in another one. And it's this constant rotation of new manager, new system that takes a while to bed in sometimes. And again, that's why potentially Liverpool might not be firing on all cylinders straight off the bat. And say, it pains me to say, but I think out of those 6, Spurs will finish highest of those 6. I'd say, as I said earlier on, I have high hopes for West Ham getting a European spot. I don't think it'll be a Champions League spot, but I think they would be a very good bet for European spot. I think Newcastle will come back into the equation this year if they can stay injury free. They had a lot of injury problems last year. I think if they can stay injury free, I think they'll be strong. And
Sven Botman's out, isn't he? I think.
Huh?
Is Botman injured now? Sven Botman's injured, I think, isn't he? And he was massive for them. When he plays, they don't concede very many.
I think if they can bring in Gahey, that'll be a big move. But they've got to get that move done. I think without bringing in someone of his quality, I think they could struggle. I say Chelsea, if Chelsea get, I think if Chelsea can get a consistent lineup, not necessarily playing the same 11 every week, but Pep doesn't change all 11 every week. He has a consistency to a certain point and then swaps in a few players every week. If Chelsea can get that form of comfort in their locker room, that the players are happy to do that. But just the silly things like the arguing over who was going to take penalties and stuff like that, I don't think it's a cohesive locker room. I don't know how you do it with that many players who all want to be superstars in their own right. And to be honest, I can't understand why players continue to want to go there. Why is Neto signed to go there? It doesn't make sense.
It's money.
It's the money, but that's it. It's like, or do they all think they're that brilliant that they're automatically going to walk into the first 11 and then they have a shock?
If they're getting 300 grand a week, they don't really care.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
But then if you've got players that don't care, you're not going to do very well, are you?
No, exactly. I think that's the guys. I think they back themselves until reality hits.
Yeah,
they believe they're that good, and then they go there and realize, I'm getting. And then
reality hits, and then you get discontent in the locker room because when reality hits that they're not going to play every week, they're not happy.
Yep.
And
if Maresca is good at man management, if he can get the players to buy into his philosophy, then they've got a lot of very good players at that football club. I mean, Caicedo and Lavia and Fernandes struggled last season with their price tags, but they've now had a year to get used to that. It may well be that their midfield is much stronger this season than it was last. They're going to need to deal with Silva going at the back because Silva is a very good organiser and leader. So I'm interested to see how they cope in the back four without him. But I think Chelsea have got potentially had the strongest players. Whether they've got the cohesion under a new manager will be a testament of Maresca's man management skills, I imagine.
Yeah.
So, guys, this brings us to the last part of our podcast. It's going to be our top 4 prediction. And so, as always, I will go first. Last year, I was dead unsure that Arsenal was going to win the Premier League. And I went early in the summer and I said Arsenal will win the Premier League. And quite frankly, I'm still surprised and shocked that they didn't, because the season before, when they ran out of legs, squad was not an issue. Injuries was not an issue. It was just, and it just goes to show in sports, doesn't it? And you see those magical moments. We've all seen it. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, we've seen it. Roger Federer. We've seen it in sports over the decades. That champions, it comes down to fine lines. It comes down to 1 or 2 things. And that's where we are right now. We've caught up to Manchester City to a point now where it's just those fine lines. And so that's our next lesson, and it's a mental thing. It's got nothing to do with your capability to play football in terms of defense. They have the best defense in the league, Arsenal, and they're improving on that. In terms of goals, don't listen to what the fans say, but Arsenal's striking force, absolutely. For the last 2 years, Mikel Arteta has broken franchise records for Arsenal with the most goals scored at the club. more than any Arsenal manager in history. So regardless of what anybody wants to tell you about strikers, and you know Arsenal fans do like to go off on one, but there's nothing wrong with their attacking force. Their midfield
Franchise records. What do you mean by that? That's not a footballing term, is it? Franchise record.
You can tell he doesn't.
That's an Americanization.
Yeah, I've got to apologize for Andy E, and he doesn't watch American sports. So
he's talking about his soccer team now, of course.
Yeah.
And so as I said, guys, in regards to Arsenal, the midfield, in my opinion, are the best in the Premier League. The partnership of Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, and Odegaard is everything that you want in there. There's steel, transition, creativity in abundance.
Is Partey staying?
Really yes, he's staying.
Maybe.
So I think, look, they're improving incrementally every single year, and I think they will continue to improve this year. And I think Arsenal are going, putting my stamp on it yet again, that Arsenal are going to be champions. And I do think, though, that the second place is going to come down to a lot of different factors. We don't know whether Pep Guardiola is staying. I'm hearing rumblings that he might be signed in an extension. I really don't know what's going to happen there, because we all know what can happen if a manager doesn't commit. And then there's the charges that they face, which is November's the Tribune, and anything can happen in there. And I think with all of I can speak for all of us and say that I'm not expecting anything out of the charges. But what I will say is, if they're not charged, then the FA are opening up a can of worms, because the teams who were charged last year have an absolute fantastic court case to go in and rip the shreds out of the FA in the Premier League. And because of that reason, the Premier League has to show steel. Because otherwise...
They set a precedent, didn't they? By
yes,
giving
exactly.
points deductions.
That's correct. And as I said, if you don't do nothing to Man City, Everton, Nottingham Forest, they're going to be waiting into the courtrooms, and they're going to rinse the hell out of you, and they're going to win. Because you've punished them, you've shown what the standards are, and then you've done it for one group, but then not the other. So anyway,
but Apollo, as I've tried to tell you before, you have to be able to provide evidence in a courtroom, because that's where it's going to end up. And Manchester City have the best lawyers in the world. So
Andy, obviously, you know, you're a bit clued up on how the system works. In terms of evidence, no prosecution team would walk into a courtroom unless they could prove it beyond doubt. That's standard. So if it was the case that you were talking about, we wouldn't even...
Well, that's not true, because otherwise every case would go for the prosecution, wouldn't it? And it doesn't.
Well, not every case, but every big case. Let's talk about big level cases, top level cases, that you just would not do it unless you had...
But City got the 2018 case overturned at the Court of Arbitration for Sport.
Yeah, so, not overturned. They did pay 50 million. It wasn't
so City got the case overturned based on technicality and time.
Yes, it was a technicality, but they still got it overturned.
So Andy's right about the competence of the technical team that City has. The issue is about, is the evidence that you have, can it be introduced in court? Because how was the evidence obtained? That's part of the challenge that they're running into. Right? Remember that City got hacked, basically. And the question is that admissible evidence in the first place? And the question arises is, why are we taking so long to get this to resolution? Is because the lawyers are going to spin this 24/7 until 2030, and we all get tired and move on.
The point is, if the Premier League were confident of victory, they would have done it already.
Yes, they would have.
That's the point. The reason it's taking so long is because they're trying to build a watertight case. But my guess is the reason it's taking so long is because they know that there are some holes in it. Not because City probably didn't breach the rules. I'm not even sure City themselves would argue whether or not they breached the rules as they stand now. The issue is, how clear were the rules at the time that the alleged breaches were made? Because if you were looking at the rules now and how the regulations stand now, City quite clearly breached the regulations as of now. But were the regulations as clear 10, 15 years ago as they are now? And I would say they weren't, because none of this was going on 10, 15 years ago in terms of these punishments that were being dished out. Yeah. And I think City will argue that there was room for manoeuvre at the time, whereas there is no room for manoeuvre now because they've closed down all the loopholes.
I think actually, if you think about just a big part of the case, which is about I circumvented the rules where I said my source of revenue really wasn't what it was, right? I said I had revenues from certain independent parties and it wasn't independent. And can I clearly prove that without it being hacked evidence that I've garnered? And they may be able to prove it, but time is also of the essence. And it's been a long time. People have moved on. And they need to bring it to closure. Let's say they take a reduced charge and move on.
Yeah, agreed. So let me finish off, guys. So I'm going for Arsenal champions. I'm going for City second. And then I'm going for Liverpool third. And then Man United fourth. And Liverpool, guys, watch out for Liverpool, man. They're intriguing to watch under Arne Slot. They transition way ahead of what they did under Klopp. And they've just remained dormant in the market because I think at the moment he just wants to see what he's got to work with. It's a smart move, really, when you think about it. He wants to see what he's got to work with. Maybe go a little bit because he knows how good this team is, and then he won't make any rash decisions, and then he'll make changes when he needs to or bring in players when he needs to. So yeah, Liverpool are going to be there or thereabouts for me. They're going to be competitive. They'll take third. But then I like what's happening in Manchester United, and I'm tipping them for fourth. Ian, let's go with you, and then I'll go to a few of the guys in the chat, and then we'll close it out with Andy and Kranky.
Yeah, I agree with you on the fact that I think this is Arsenal's year. I think the Alvarez move at Man City takes a big chunk out of their depth, especially up front. If something should happen to Haaland, they're not going to be as strong as they have been in the past. They're not going to have the cover for him as they've had in the past. And you do see it in sports sometimes. It's hard to continue winning year after year. And I know City have done it for X amount of years on the trot. But there is a thing called winning fatigue where it doesn't mean as much if you keep doing it every year. And I think Arsenal are hungry. Arsenal are ready. I thought, like you, I thought they were ready last year. I thought Declan was the final piece in the jigsaw. Yeah. But I think he's probably the best player in the country, irrespective of position. I know Romero's amazing, but I think Declan is the best player in the country. And I think Arsenal are ready. I think City will be second, and they'll run them close. They won't. It's not. Neither team are going to get away, but I think Arsenal will win comfortably enough. It's not going to come down to the last game of the season, or I don't think. I think Arsenal may win with 2 or 3 games to go this year. I still think Liverpool will be third, but I think the gap is going to... Liverpool are going to drop back into that pack of 6 that we were talking about. My partner, Nikki, is a lifelong Liverpool fan, and she said this year she would be very happy if they qualify for Europe. That means in any of the European slots. She said, I as a Liverpool fan, she said, I'm fully prepared this year to accept a drop back to the pack, 6th, 7th, and then be ready to go again next year. I think there's an expectation that there will be a drop off. And like you're saying, if they're not signing anyone, if he's waiting to see what he's got, that could lend itself to that. Because now they don't really have the strength and depth that they've had in the past. And they don't seem to be bringing people in. I think they'll be a solid third. And like I said earlier on, I've got a funny feeling Tottenham could sneak into that top 4.
Excellent. So Michael has said City, Arsenal, Chelsea in third, and then Liverpool. Big says, don't sleep on Newcastle. Yeah, we did kind of fall asleep on Newcastle. So thanks for reminding us. Cam says Arsenal, Liverpool second, City, and then Chelsea. Everyone's going for Chelsea fourth. I think they're drinking some of Kranky's Kool-Aid right now. They definitely are, man. Jason, Chelsea defense will prevent them from being great. We've got Senate. He says City first, Arsenal, Manchester United third, and then Liverpool. Everton, Emerson's going with City winners, Arsenal second, Liverpool, and then Villa Wow, Villa, that's a shout out there. Biggs is saying Liverpool is going to win the league. Wow. He's saying it's Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and then Spurs. That's
It is
the first
Friday
shout
night.
out that we're seeing for Spurs.
Distinct lack of Arsenal at number one there out of all of
I'm
those
telling
predictions.
you.
I can't see anyone going for Arsenal there.
All right, Cranky, let's get your top four.
So I have to pick Arsenal because I'm an Arsenal fan. So it'd be disingenuous for me not to pick them to be this good. But we need a center forward. We keep talking about how many goals we scored. We need a center forward, people. That's what City has, the differentiating factor. When you're in a big game and it's going to put the ball in the net, Jesus put it wide, or Havertz doesn't turn up. I need somebody who can stick the ball in the net. We don't have that. That's our problem. Declan Rice is overrated. He's not the best player. I'm sorry, Ian.
I was going to say no.
Declan Rice is a very good defender, and he can drive the ball. He can't pass the ball between the lines. He can't play the ball over the top. No,
he was appalling. He was appalling in the Euros.
That's what
he didn't have a good Euros. I'll give you that.
No,
but,
hey, guys! Foden didn't have a good Euros, and he was playing.
Not many people had a good Euros. To be honest,
for 38 games for Arsenal. It's not Euros. Partey does that.
Honestly, Declan Rice can put that ball on a sixpence.
A big sixpence. Artificial one. I'm sorry.
All right, a 50p then.
No, look, he's a good player, right? But he's not what we make him out to be. That's the problem we had in the Euros with England. He can't split defenses. He can't make that pass that is not obvious. He can't make the pass that's not obvious.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're not. This is talking about Declan Rice.
Yeah.
We need an 8. We need some of the backup Saka, and most importantly, we need a center forward. Our defense is ridiculous. Our defense with our 6 center back is ridiculous. Versatile, Timber can play left back. Calafiori can play anywhere. Timber can play center back and left back and right back. So defensively, we're set. Midfield, we need an 8. And frankly, if we don't get a center forward, we're going to come second again. But I'm picking us to win.
And what about the rest of the second?
Well, I picked my 4 already, didn't I? I'm going to say second is City.
Yep.
And we're going to struggle with City because when people say Alvarez is leaving, what are they going to do? Guardiola always have it figured out. They spent less than 20 million net this year. They have money to spend. They're getting about 80 million for him. They can go out and buy somebody who they want. They probably go buy Osimhen for all we know and go pair him with Haaland. How do we know what they're going to do? They have money to spend. They haven't spent any money. They've been generating tons of revenues. They're going to have money. Liverpool 3rd, Chelsea 4th.
Yeah, and my thoughts on City quickly before I go to Andy and shout out to Neil. Neil, man, I know. Listen, Neil
is coming to sign off.
Neil's working on black people time, He's working on black people time, man. We're nearly done, Neil.
Sorry, man. It's like, they've only just left. Let me quickly jump on to see if I can.
Well, you made it just in time for us to give our top 4 predictions, which is actually what the podcast is all about. So we'll come to you after Andy. Right, cool. I did want to say, though, my thoughts quickly about City was that they're a really aging squad now. Look how young Spurs are getting, West Ham are getting, Arsenal are young. The stars we're talking about, Declan Rice, Havertz, the Odegaard, these guys are 24, 25 years old. But City, half of their expected squad and starting 11 is over 30 years old. So I think, and what we're starting to see is the injuries, especially to Kevin De Bruyne, John Stones, these guys starting to get long with the tooth, cannot give you a full season of football. So I think that will come into create a massive intangible to them. Let's go to, before we go to Andy.
Before you go, I'll say this. We haven't seen City Academy, and they have excellent players in the academy. They've built up for the last number of years. Palmer left them last year, and where did he go? And become excellent at Chelsea. So let's see who they bring into the academy, because their academy has been one of the better ones for a number of years now. Players just don't come through, right? They sell them off or they get rid of them. But let's see what they do in the academy before we say. And they bought Sabina in. Let's see what they do.
So Tony's gone for Arsenal first, City, Liverpool, then Chelsea. Another shout for Chelsea there in the top 4. Mugshots has gone for Arsenal, City, Liverpool, and United. Yeah, that's pretty much where I am. Great minds think alike, my friend. Maxit Football says City first. How your boy gonna do me like that, Cranky man? How your boy gonna do me like that? We're gonna have words.
Max is anti-Arsenal. So when we say about Arsenal, we're not taking. We're just moving that out. He's gonna go against Arsenal.
He's gone for Liverpool second, Arsenal third, Chelsea fourth. Another shout for Chelsea. Have we got any other predictions there? No, yes, we've got Drews as well. He's gone Liverpool, Man United second, Arsenal, then City.
No, he's a Man U fan, people. There's no way Man U comes second in this league.
No, there's no way a Man U fan puts Liverpool as winners, man. What are you talking about?
He said Liverpool. He didn't say Liverpool.
And Jason says Arsenal, City, Liverpool, West Ham for fourth.
I'll take that one.
Ooh-wee. Okay, Andy, you got the conch. Who's your top four as your title winners?
I'm really struggling with this because as a Spurs fan, I can't admit who I think was going to win the league this year. I can't actually say it out loud.
Go on, I managed to say Spurs would be in the top four. You can do this, Andy. You can do this.
I don't think I've just got a hunch, and you know me. I've gone, and Drew would testify to this. I've said City last 4 seasons. Couldn't see past City. Think they are superb. I have a hunch City will not win the league this year. I'm not completely convinced who's going to take it off them, but based on what information we have right now, then Arsenal are clearly the favourites in my eyes. But I can't bring myself to actually say it. So it's just like I think Arsenal should win the league this year, but I'm not going to say they will win the league this year. I think Spurs will be in the top 4. How good a season we have could depend on what business we can do in the remainder of the window. I think we are light in defence. I think we've got a very, very strong back 4 and an able centre-half deputy in Dragusin. But I worry about the injuries to Udogie and Porro, because what we've got in reserve in the fullback positions is not strong right now. So if they had the injury-free season, then maybe we could survive. But then also, if you're going to play 50, 60 games, they're going to struggle to play all of those games. You're going to need other people to come in. But I think we are going to try and do something. What we have got is a whole load of youngsters coming through, really strong youngsters. Bergvall, Gray, who we've bought from Leeds, Donnelly, Mikey Moore, who's only 16, but I think he's 17 on Sunday. So watch out for some of these guys. We've got some very good youngsters, and I think they will get some game time, maybe not a lot, but they will get some game time this season, probably in the Europa League, I imagine. But yes, if you want a prediction, I'm going to go blank number 1.
Spurs number 2. Go on, say it. You know you won it. Say it.
For some reason, I think City might end up 3rd this season. I just can't see City maintaining it for a 5th successive season. I don't know why, but we're as sure as I've been that they would win the last 4 seasons, and I was right. I'm as sure that they're not going to do it this season. Just a hunch. So you're then looking for who else, and obviously that mob down the road are in pole position with what they've achieved the last 2 seasons, or what they've nearly achieved in the last 2 seasons. But I think we could give it a go. I think we'll fall short in the running. I think Liverpool might struggle to start with under Slot, but if he gets it right, he's got enough decent players there for them to be there. I imagine Liverpool will be there or thereabouts. So, yeah, you've got my 4. I think it will be blank, City, Spurs, Liverpool.
Neil, welcome to 11:30 at night on a 10 o'clock podcast. Let's get, first of all, because we want to hear from you about Liverpool. We want to hear your thoughts about Liverpool, and then tell us what your top 4 prediction is.
And please don't give Arsenal a new name called Blank. Just call
No, I won't do that. I won't do that. At the moment, I'm still kind of thinking about Slot and Klopp and what Slot's picked up from Klopp. We don't know. We know that during the
try saying that with a few pints inside you.
I know.
Yes,
I'm let alone with a few pints. The thing is, right? Slot lost his first game to Preston, but he won all the other pre-season games. So from that point of view, even though pre-seasons, it's just like giving your boys a run out, not really worrying too much about the results or taking them too seriously, because as soon as you start the league, the team's completely different. You've picked your squad, you know who your first 11 are, and you kind of stick with them. I have to give it a season to see where he is. I'm not expecting great things. I mean, he's still inherited a pretty good squad, and we are going to be top 4. Where we're going to be top 5, I think we're actually going to be 4th, to be honest. And if we end up in 4th position, it's forgivable because he's going to be creating his own team. He's going to be getting his own players. He's going to be making a lot of changes over the next few seasons. So as long as we finish up in a Champions League position, I'm happy for now. You know, so and that's where I'm at the moment. It's, you know, I always give it a season to 2 seasons before I start saying what I think is going to go and how it's going to go. Slot's new. We'll have to see what happens. He started okay in the pre-seasons. We'll have to see if he can just make that momentum carry on during the league.
I think from my point, Neil, before you go on with your top 4 prediction, and I think all the guys, Ian, Cranky, and Andy, are all thinking the same thing. If there's one thing we can say that Klopp's done well at that club, is he's been buying young, good, talented players. And unlike a lot of other managers who come into an underperforming team and an ailing team and an aging team, this guy, he's got a talented bunch of players, hasn't he?
He has got a talented bunch of players, but just because he's got a talented bunch of players doesn't mean he's going to be using them or he wants them.
Oh,
which is why I'm saying that you have to give it a season to 2 seasons to see where, because what every manager wants when they come into a club is they want to inherit a good club, a good squad, but they also want to put their own stamp on it. They don't want to be known as the person who's won this cup or won this league through somebody else's team. They want it to be their team. Yeah. So they normally keep the core and then they bring in players to suit their style. Yeah. Klopp and Slot, similar kind of styles, but I think he's still going to be making changes. And we just have to see. There hasn't been many rumors of who we're going to go for or who he doesn't want in the team. He's kind of kept his cards close to his chest for now. So I think he's just at the stage where he doesn't want to upset anyone, and he definitely doesn't want to upset the fan base either, because a lot of people have written him off before he's even started. And after losing to Preston 1-0, all those doubters were saying, "Yeah, we told you so. We told you so," even though it's a pre-season game. Yeah.
So what did they say when you beat Arsenal?
They didn't say much because it's a pre-season game. That's what I'm saying. It's like they don't.
You gotta love how fickle fans are, eh, guys?
That's what I'm saying. They don't. You know, they all right for bragging rights to go. Yeah, we beat you. But you know, deep down, they're looking for the excuse. If they don't like the manager, they're looking for an excuse to slam him down, to make him feel silly. Yeah, that first game, all the doubters were the ones that were going, "We told you so. We told you so." But it's a pre-season game, right? He didn't play the first team. He had members for the first team. A lot of them are still on holidays coming back. Yeah, right. But they don't see that because they see the name Liverpool. And as far as they're concerned, you see your team's name, they should not be losing to teams like Preston, which is true. We shouldn't be losing to Preston. Yeah, even with our kids, we shouldn't be losing to Preston. So, you know, from that point of view, yes, a lot of fans kind of thought, oh, here we go again. But then when Klopp came in, he wasn't the greatest manager when he first got there. He made a lot of mistakes as well. But he inherited a squad. He used most of those players. But over the years, he got the players that he wanted. And Slot's going to do the same thing. He'll do the same thing. But how different the team is from today than maybe 3 or 4 years' time, we'll just have to see.
Who's your top 4, Neil?
Top 4. I hate this because I say this every season. I still see City doing it. They've just got too much budget. They've got too many talented players, even though, yes, they're on the wrong side of 25. But they've still got the skills. And they've still got lots of players. They've got lots of young players to choose from anyway. So I still think they'll do it. So for me, the top 4 will be City, Arsenal second, unfortunately. Booze. Spurs third, Liverpool fourth.
Oh, we got a Liverpool fan here as well. Big says, Liverpool fan here. No paid attention to that Preston game behind closed doors and reserve players.
Exactly. Yeah. But people were still saying, well, look, he's lost his first game. And it's just, I don't look at, it's nice to have bragging rights, but realistically, all preseason games are about bringing your players back into it, getting their fitness levels back up, getting them back into playing competitive football. Yeah, but it's not taken too seriously. If you lose, you lose. If you win, you win. It's not a league game as such. Yeah, it's a run-out game, and we all know that. So true fans should just look at it as that. Just take it with a pinch of salt, whether you win or you lose your preseason games. It don't mean nothing. You can lose all your preseason games and still win the league. Yeah,
Neil's been incredibly realistic there about, obviously it's the first season and you're not necessarily expecting him to do great things, and if you squeak into the top 4, that's something to be proud of. And I think that's an acceptance of a new manager coming in. I mean, that's the same with us, but I think that's Chelsea's problem. They don't seem to understand that.
Well, the problem with Chelsea, in my view, is you have an owner who just who thinks he's in the what's the American football? NFL.
Yeah.
This is more,
but he's buying like that. He's just going out and buying players, But
see, the NFL doesn't do that. I think you mean Football Manager, because the NFL has a salary cap, and you certainly can't do that.
Yeah.
It's allowing. Is blaming the Chelsea owner. Is it the owner or the people who surround him? Because owners don't normally go out and buy, right? The people around him is the one making this, telling him what he should and shouldn't buy. He's not going out and saying, let me go buy Neto from
the world. Telling him to buy every player that's out there.
I know.
I've got a friend called James Rubin who's in the circle, and it's him. It's not the board. It's him. He's doing a Dan Snyder, and Ian knows a lot about that. He knows all about that. He's the one calling the shots.
Buying player after player after player. And you can see they're not doing any homework or due diligence on the players that they're buying. They're just buying players.
And a brand new manager every season means they've got to adapt. Like you were saying with Slot, it takes time for a new manager to put their system in, irrespective of the players that are there. They may be the greatest players in the world, but if you're still trying to implement a new managerial system, it takes a while. And you're being honest, Neil, in terms of how long it might take Slot to transition from Klopp. But Chelsea just don't, I say Chelsea, but Bowley or whatever, you don't seem to appreciate that you can't fire a manager every year and expect to suddenly be successful. It doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
You know what he should do? He should look at Watford. How many managers did they sack on the season they went down?
Watford, man.
They've got about 15 managers in the last 4 years, haven't they? Something like that.
Yeah. All right, guys, listen, we've come to the end of the podcast. Is anybody get any closing comments or something that they wanted to say, which I didn't have the time to say?
Have a great season, everyone.
Yep, have a good season.
Bless Ian. I love to see West Ham's business that they're doing. I have no idea where they're getting all this money, but welcome to the big welcome to the big league. Welcome to the
porn. Normally, the answer to where West Ham got their money, it's porn. So
Excellent, guys. All right, thanks a lot, guys. It's now just 7 days to the start of the season, and we'll be back with you next week, Monday, guys, with an Arsenal prediction of our first 10 games. Have a great weekend, everybody. Speak to you later. Peace out.
Have a good one, gents.